Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome. It's Chris James from Oryx Consulting. We wanted to do some video content just because it's a little bit more of a supplement to what we're already doing. So I hope you find some really good information within these. And what we're going to do, we're just going to do a little Q&A. So we'll start off ourselves doing a little bit of question and answers and trying to get some more information out there about some of the really cool equipment that we are involved with here throughout the GCC. On top of this, once we start get rolling with these things, we would really like your feedback on them, and we'd really like you to start asking some of your own questions and telling us what you would like to hear from us, including some of the machinery that we do, that we are involved with here in the Emirates and the greater GCC area. So without further ado, this first one, because we're so passionate about slinger machines and slingers, we really want to start with the slingers. So without further ado, Lindsay's behind the camera and she's going to start asking the questions for us just to get the ball rolling.
Okay, so what are slingers and what do they do?
Okay, slingers are the really simple version of this, are high-speed material placing machines. They have essentially a hopper and a high-speed placing conveyor. Now, the high-speed placing conveyor doesn't matter whether they are on-road units or off-road units, they do the same thing. They move material at great distances and very, very efficiently. The high-speed placing conveyor will do speeds up to 100 kilometers per hour, okay? So that gives you some kind of indication of what kind of speeds and how much material you can move out of these things. These will work in just about most industries.
Which industries can slingers be used in, or are they used in?
Okay, currently slingers are being used everywhere. I mean, the range is so diverse. We can use them from mining, so we use them in mining, everything from revegetation of a mine site in some of the tailings dam, very soft underfoot conditions. We use them in stemming, for blast hole stemming, for getting the material into the blast hole very, very quickly and very, very efficiently. To date, there's no equipment that can even keep up with slingers in this application. We can use them in landscaping. They're heavily used throughout the world in landscaping, so USA and Australia, and some, I believe, are in New Zealand as well at the moment. With the landscaping, traditionally they can place any kind of material throughout the landscaper's arsenal, shall we say. But on top of this, they use them extensively with the blower trucks. Blower trucks are again a special material placing machine where they blow material through a hose. These machines, these blowers, are extremely expensive. To give you an indication, there's something around 3 times the price of a slinger truck. Okay, so to keep these blowers working efficiently, the slinger helps bring the material and load the blower truck. So you don't have to pack the blower truck up, pack up all of the people and all the hoses and everything like that, go away, reload and come back. This is just wasted time, wasted money. So for efficiency, people use a lot of slingers in these. They use them in pipeline industries as well. I mean, to give you some sort of indication, we were using them in the Surat Basin in Queensland for backfilling cable trenches which needed to use some imported material. On these projects, we were seeing backfill of the 300 shading above the cable. We were backfilling a 660mm wide trench. We were doing our 800 metres, which was our target, in a little bit over 2 hours with a slinger machine. We've used the slingers before in underground. We've been to some underground mines in Australia and spoke about the slingers with them, but I know in the USA they have used them in underground for filling in stopes with those. Road construction used everywhere throughout road construction, from placing materials on the sides of batters, working in drainage, all of those kinds of things. Anything infrastructure related, whether it be below ground, above ground, cables, pipelines, anything like that. They've even used them in the agricultural industry for moving grain, for getting grain right into the top of big sheds in the USA. So yeah, many, many different applications, and we're still learning of more.
What kind of material can be placed, and can you talk about the size, the different sizes?
Okay, so types of material, again, as wide ranging as the application and the industries that you can use them in. Light materials, we'll start with light materials. Things like mulches, barks and compost. Now, I won't say all mulches, and the reason why I say this is some of the mulches, when they're what they call a tub ground mulch, so they put them in the big tub grinders, the mulch that comes out is very stringy, very long, very stringy, and slingers do not like this. I don't care what slinger, what brand it is, slingers don't like this type of material. Barks, no problem at all. Compost, soils, sand, gravel, rock, we'll run up to rock at 75 millimeter for our USA guys. That's 3 inches. We have worked with bigger rock, but again, it depends on how quickly you want to place the material. If you only want to place the material very closely, you can run, we have run up to 6-inch rock before, okay? But again, it comes down to how much wear on that belt and how far you need to shoot it. If you need to shoot large rock at long distances, the belt will not cope with this very well. It will do it, but again, it's horses for courses. We've worked with grain before, like I say, we've worked with concrete before, we've worked with stabilized sands before. So wet material, dry material, there is no difference to a slinger. It will move all kinds of products on those belts.
How far can they sling material, and what's the productivity like?
Distance is one thing. Shooting at distance, these machines, short answer, will do almost 40 meters of distance. It's about 37 meters when you work out from 160 feet back. But shooting at those distances relies on a heavier material, so things like a smaller rock and small amounts will sling at very long distances. Once you get into production, there's 2 different size conveyor belts that we use on the slingers. One is a 12-inch wide and one is a 14-inch wide conveyor. The 12-inch wide conveyor will do up to 3.5 cubic meters every minute. The 14-inch wide unit will do up to 4.5 cubic meters every minute. Now that is in a bulk backfill scenario, so we're not shooting big distances, we're not shooting at great speeds on the belt, we're just trying to move as much material as quickly as we can. So with those kinds of productions, we're only usually working on about 5 to 10 meters maximum you would expect at those kinds of productivity.
Are they difficult to operate?
Absolutely not. If your kid can play PlayStation, he can operate a slinger. It is a radio control, somewhat of about this size, and that radio control controls every function of that machine. Very fine, very user friendly. It's not a jerky radio control system by any means. 3 operations on the off-road slingers for the 2 conveyor belts, the 1 conveyor belt that feeds the placing belt, which is the high-speed belt, and 1 for the placing belt. These run with a potentiometer, a little dial, and this dial we can dial in from speed 0 up to maximum speed and every increment in between. On top of that, we can also calibrate these units, so we can calibrate if we want a wide area of operation or a very narrow area of operation, depending on how fine we want to tune that in. With the off-road slinger, we introduce a 3rd potentiometer, which is also the travel, or what we call creep speed. So when you're backfilling a trench or something like this and you need to move at a consistent speed, we can dial in the speed of the travel speed, we can dial in the feed speed, and we can dial in the placing speed as well. So very easy to operate, and I've basically every machine I've ever done a handover of, we can train people within an hour to an hour and a half. They are operating a slinger efficiently and effectively.
Okay, now that you've touched on the advantages, what are maybe some of the disadvantages?
It really depends on the industry that you're working in. And even touching a little bit further on that, it could actually be the area of the world that you're working in as well. When labour is very, very cheap, you really have to do your sums as to whether a slinger machine is going to be the right fit for your project on smaller jobs. If you run large scale projects, whatever they may be, you need a slinger. There's no question about that. When you have very small jobs and a job that doesn't, you know you're not going to get that same job again for some time, I would not recommend a slinger for you. It's somewhat of a luxury for those smaller styles of jobs, but if you're on larger jobs, there is no better machine to help you save time and money. Some of the other downsides to the slinger, I can't, to be quite honest, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, only that there are some jobs that don't have enough money in it when the labour is cheap. If you're in a country where the labour is expensive, there is no question in my mind.
Okay, now just tell us about some of your personal experiences with slingers.
Okay, so one of the projects that I'm very, very proud that I've ever been involved in, and it was a very large. It's large in the scale that the actual job itself was large, but also the involvement from CAS Conveyor Application Systems in the USA, the Australian distributor that I was involved with at the time, Caneric Group, and ourselves. It was in Singapore, and it's a large-scale land reclamation project. They had a problem on the job site where all of the sand for the land reclamation was imported from other countries into Singapore. This sand obviously came at a cost, and there was some 2.5 million cubic metres that were required for the job site. Prior to the slingers, they were wasting up to 40% of the imported material. We spoke with the engineers, the geotechnical engineers, and everyone on site. We did a site visit. We went in and inspected the job site extensively. The question was asked, can the slingers work in this environment? Short answer, absolutely yes. Could they do what the geotechnical engineers wanted? This was another question that needed to be answered, that the Australian distributor sent over a demo machine. We put the demo machine in there. Suffice to say, once we had the demonstration machine in there, we carried out some product training and some support for them. They originally started with a request of up to 9 units. By the time we did the demonstration, it was down to 5 units, and one of the 5 was actually a backup machine for them. These machines were working around the clock. The last count, which was some 2 weeks ago now, those 5 machines in 21 months have clocked up over 25,000 hours. It's the highest, quickest hours ever put onto slingers anywhere in the world. It's a fantastic project to be involved in, and we did save the 40% of wasted material. So the slingers did everything that this contractor wanted to do, and to have a machine like a slinger, which is somewhat of a smaller, compact machine working in with very large dredging and land reclamation project, is fantastic to say the least. One of the other outstanding projects that I was involved in was a cable backfill project in Australia. Prior to the slingers getting there, the contractor had a target of 800 metres of cable he wanted to put in the trench a day. He could not get anywhere near this. I think their best day was around 600 metres, and one of the areas that were holding them up was the backfilling. They could not backfill in time, and the client wouldn't allow them to put the cable in the ground if they couldn't backfill it in the same day. We sent one slinger to the job site with some small training. Within 1 week, we had production, the 800 metre production, to around 2.5 hours. They were doing the 800 metres. They requested a second machine to accelerate the project, and suffice to say that the slingers came in, saved the day, and they were putting in over 1 kilometre per day on that project. So those are the type of jobs that really stand out for me, and they're the type of jobs that that give us good data and good feedback to give to other clients all around the world when they ask us, okay, can they help us? Can they remove people from a job? Can they stop wastage? Absolutely, 100% they can. And if I leave on anything, the biggest things to take away from a slinger machine when you are using them in any kind of construction activity is they remove people, expensive labour, and they stop wastage. Now, especially with backfilling trenches with imported material is extremely expensive. And it's some of the big ticket items on a lot of these cross-country projects. These are two huge costs to projects. So these slingers are I won't ever call anything a silver bullet, but these are pretty much as close as you're going to get to a silver bullet for a lot of these contractors around the world. So look guys, I hope that was of some really good information for you, and I hope you can take something away from that. So if we can help with anything else or you have further questions, please leave a comment. Feel free to follow us along on any of our social media, whether that be YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're very, very active on LinkedIn, and we've got a really good following there. So any of those platforms, Twitter, have I forgotten anything, Lou? Snapchat as well. We find Snapchat is very, very good here throughout the GCC region. The guys over here love it. So look, I hope it was of help to you. Thanks very much for your time. Be safe out there and look after one another. Thank you.